Hello. So welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. We got a great show today of The Profit. It's one of our episode reviews with amazing grapes, Schuler's barbecue. We've got Grafton furniture and SJC drums. Hang tight.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I love this song.
I love it.
I love this song.
Welcome to The Profit. We are on the final episode of the season.
We are, and I'm sad about that.
It's so sad.
I'm sad. What else are we going to do on Wednesdays?
I have no idea. We'll figure it out.
My.
We'll figure it out. Because why? Because we're Americans.
Oh, yes.
No,
well,
but we
half
could be
of us
from any
are.
country. Yes.
I'm
half
actually
of us are.
Canadian.
Okay. We'll get
but
to
I
that.
could be like Ted Cruz. I could be both.
Oh, God. So I'm Chris Howard. You can reach me during the episode. You can reach me after the episode. You can reach me anytime you want because I'm very lonely. I have nothing to do. No, but you can reach out to me at Chris Howard Live on Twitter and Instagram. You can also reach me on legendarylivingdaily.com where I give tips, inspiration, business advice, and legendarylivingtv.com as well for YouTube. Over here to my left is the one, the only Katerina.
Katerina. Hello, everyone. How are you? And I am so sad this week. I was telling Chris that it's the final episode of final season 3.
You did tell me that.
And yes, we're a little upset. So if you're looking for me after this after show, you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at Katerina Cozias. I make life easy. You can also, of course, catch up with me via my website, which is called Global Gab. That's global-gab.com, where I fill you in on happenings that are going on around the globe.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Most recently, I don't know if anyone noticed, but there was a landslide in Sri Lanka.
Really?
And there have been many, many villages that have been crushed by this landslide. This happened probably about 3-4 hours ago. So
you're kidding
this is breaking news. Catch up with me and with AFTERBUZZ
Not
for that.
good. It's really hard to how to move off of that. But I mean, if they
Right.
had a landslide, we're going to look for a landslide of profits in today's episode.
Well, and there were.
And
there were.
Yes, there were. And what was cool about this episode was that we had 4 different businesses in the progress
This is a recap
reports.
episode. I like the recap episodes.
Yeah, it's to me. Typically when they'll do the progress reports, they'll do it like on 1 or 2. But they did 4 businesses, and I think that the reason could be because we have the spinoff of The Profit that's coming up. And by the way, we're both going to be on the panel for that.
Called The Partner.
And so I think they may be prepping for that and saying, hey,
Yes.
here's all these businesses.
Just to remind you what we've been investing in and why we're looking for a partner to help manage these businesses that Marcus has put almost $40 million into.
Yeah, $40 million. And you sound like you're already a partner. You said we've been investing
Well,
in.
I've got to work that. What's it called? Psychological universal factor force.
The universal factor.
Put it out there and it'll happen.
Yes.
Manifest it.
So yeah, he's invested in 26 different businesses.
Yeah.
He's brought 40 businesses, I believe, since the inception of The Profit to the table. 26 he's invested in, and he's invested, I believe it's over 40 million of his own dollars.
Yes.
So that's wild. And so the partner that is the spinoff that's coming off, it'll be, I think it's in the next season, the upcoming season.
It's going to be like a mini Apprentice almost, where he is out looking for the partner, and I'm sure he's going to have a group of people that he's going to be giving exercises to and testing their tenacity in business.
Their tenacity, their skills, their mindset, the whole bit. Can they do it? And that's and the idea is that the winner wins the ability to manage the portfolio of businesses, which is 26 businesses that are very diverse.
Yeah.
That's I was thinking about that. It's like, what kind of skill set would that person need? And it's
it'd be interesting because you need to be a generalist in order to have a capacity to understand these businesses, but you'd also have to be a very astute businessman and financier.
Right, you said businessmen. You didn't say
businesswoman.
Right. I'm just curious.
Okay, if we went to Vegas and we put some money down on this, I would not put money on a woman getting this position. Not that women
just because
can't.
you're racist? Or,
it's because I'm gender biased.
Gender biased? Okay.
No, it's
Women, women can multitask.
It's tough.
Remember,
They can, but I suspect the partner will end up being a man.
we will see. I'll bet you on that. I think it's going to be
All
a
right,
woman.
$10. Let's do $10 right now. Everyone has to tune in
Shake on
next
that.
season when we do the
Tune
partner.
in next season. Everyone, we
$10.
got a camera there, we got a camera there, so everyone.
We don't know where we're looking.
We don't know where. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this progress report. We started off with the first business, which was amazing.
Grapes.
Yeah. So this business, it's their. Tell me, it's a wine store. They were doing what, $3 million in sales when they started.
Yes.
Since then, what's the increase that we've seen?
They went up about, they're at about 5 now, I believe.
Is that what it was? Yeah, because I see percentages and stuff.
Right.
I'm not seeing the total increase. But nonetheless, what was your first impressions of this?
Okay, so this was, for me, this was the recap was 15 months later.
Right.
So Marcus went in. This was primarily a wine store that they also converted to partially to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And one of the added elements to this business was that they had an online marketing store where they were selling the wine.
Yeah, and that wasn't working real well in the beginning, was it? Like he invested, he put money into
He put a lot of money into that for the online sales, which I think was very smart because it's a global economy, global world these days.
Right.
And you can certainly sell your wares globally via the internet. Marcus came back and
working
he came
in that global gab component.
gabbing globally about financing wines around the world.
Yes.
But Marcus came in to see what was happening a few months later, and the whole internet online side of the business had just dissipated.
Yeah, and the beer and wine sales specifically were down. And this is, you got to wonder, was it really, because I don't think that they're, I know they were down in comparison with the previous year, specifically on the beer and wine.
Yes.
Right? So you got to wonder, is it really a big issue that was a fire alarm that was going off that had to be attended to?
Okay.
Or was it just, gave them something for the show to focus on? I suppose
What did you think?
Or both. I don't. Well, yeah, I figure it was a problem, but not. It's probably not like a
super serious.
Yeah, a hole in the ship that's going to sink the ship tomorrow. But relevant, and you're always going to have improvement.
Although the player at the helm of that ship was Matt.
Yeah, that was a hole in a ship.
Matt ended up getting let go. Because of his lack of presence.
Yeah, total lack of lackadaisical.
Yes.
What did you think about Matt when you saw him?
I would have kicked Matt out of there a heck of a long time ago. Oh, yes.
You're tough.
I have very little patience when it comes to performance. So
okay,
either
I'll remember
perform
that.
or go home. So you better shape up.
That's okay. So let's put that. You can quote her on that.
There you
Perform or go home.
Perform or go home.
Hashtag. Hashtag perform or go home.
No, but really, what happened? I mean, for those of you that were watching, for those of you that may have missed it, what happened was Matt, who was in charge of the online business, young guy, about 25-ish, I would say. Marcus went up to him and said, why are only about 120 of the 500 wine selections visible online? And Matt gave him some story about, well, I'm getting to it, et cetera, et cetera. Marcus said, okay, can you get me some updated numbers?
Right.
And Matt said, no problem.
But the other partners, didn't say no problem.
Right. The other partners did say that, hey, this guy's spinning his wheels a little bit.
Yeah, like they would tell him that these other wines have to get up there, and he'd say, yes, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. Have you ever heard that in business?
Oh, absolutely.
I absolutely have heard that as well. I mean, I've had people like this on teams that I've managed before. Yeah. So I actually liked seeing this.
A real life example of the
of the activity and the behavior, the inactivity, the lack of it. So it's a non-behavior.
What I found really interesting is they cut to the scene of Matt sitting at the bar having a beer,
and that was so beautiful.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
I know, but then you also it's like how much does the editing work into it and stuff, but. It seemed. I mean, if you when you watch it, it's like this guy's. You gotta fire this guy.
You have to.
So I love to see an example of the type of behavior that should be let go of.
And they did let him go.
Yeah, and I wondered what they were going to do because they led up to the commercial, and they just got to the commercial. It was like, what do you guys think we should do with him? He's talking to the other managers, all of which were older, by the way.
Yes. I'm surprised they hadn't let him go earlier. I mean, what was Matt contributing that they were reluctant to make that decision on their own?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say there's times where I've done the same thing.
Okay, why?
I think it's
just out of loyalty, out of a sense of...
Yeah, you want to give the person a chance, and that's kind of where they were coming from. And I think it was Jack Welch that said, you're never going to regret that you fired somebody too soon.
Okay.
He says his regrets were always that he waited too long. And I've always, not always, but
regret.
I've held on to somebody for too long.
Right.
They end up causing even more problems than they could have caused in the beginning. Maybe it's just something that comes with time, maturity. You start
Would you be more inclined to let someone go now if they were behaving that way?
Yeah. In fact, I had an example of that in a business where I let them go immediately the moment I recognized something that was going to be a pattern.
Because you knew what that was going to lead to.
Exactly.
Right.
And so maybe, like I say, it's maturity. It's like afterwards, after you've seen it, you felt the pain of keeping them too long.
Right. Yeah.
These guys didn't want to let him go, but they did. They fired him right on the episode. Thought it was good, well-deserved. You?
I thought he had to go. Yeah. I was happy to see him go, and I think the business will be better off for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously they've got to find somebody to do that. But the beer and wine sales, the way the episode laid out, you always got to wonder how they edit it, and do they work in reverse? Do they look to build the story?
It's television
backwards?
after all.
It is
right?
television afterwards, but everything was leading up to the fact that the guy had to go.
Yeah.
And they got rid of him, and that was pretty much the end of that episode. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Although
so you would have fired him right away.
I would have fired him right away, and I would have gone to the bar and had my own drink.
You're tough. But then they might have fired you.
There you go.
Or they catch you on film.
That's right.
All right. Girls on film.
That's
okay.
right.
Let's move over to Schuler's Barbecue.
Schuler's Barbecue, number 2. This one I enjoyed watching because Schuler's Barbecue is based in South Carolina. And I just got back from North Carolina.
Listen to this. She thinks she's Greek. She calls herself Canadian. She says she came from Carolina.
I was trekking in Carolina.
You don't know what to believe.
But I was just out there, and it's a beautiful part of the country. And it's very back to nature, back to woods. That Schuler's Barbecue. I had many barbecues while I was out there.
Did you really?
So I would have loved to have gone had I been in South Carolina.
Wait a second. You just said you were in South Carolina.
We had a barbecue, but I was in North Carolina.
Oh,
I was in North. Keep up.
Chris, lower your chair. Okay, keep up. I'm trying.
Keep up. Get down.
Get down.
Get
Here,
down.
hold on. Watch me.
That's right.
Watch me. But it has one of those slips that you...
I enjoyed this episode. Marcus, to recap, put in $500,000 for 40% of the business.
Family business.
Yes.
Yep. Or man, woman, they want to give it to their adopted son?
Adopted son.
Yeah. He's very young.
And it is known in the area for its barbecue, for the good food. Marcus put in $500,000 to help them grow.
Boy, now look at the growth.
It's a lot of money.
The growth.
For a
this
is a 90-minute drive away from any major commercial airport. So this is out in the woods.
People are out there finding them. They love it, right? So and it was. I love the concept. I love the idea. And when he ate the ribs, he said, "Oh, these are so amazing." They were bringing people in. And what did you think of the build out that he did?
I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, it was amazing.
Beautiful, and I thought it was very smart of them to have a banquet room.
Yes.
Where they can host weddings, they can host
Special
parties,
events.
bar mitzvahs, what have you. And the revenue projections on that.
Too?
Get on to globalgap.com
no wonder it's
and you can find out.
Yeah, jeez. So you're Jewish from Greece. You call yourself a Canadian.
I speak French. What else do you need? There you go.
Bon, on va continuer.
On va continuer.
Oui. C'est pas mal.
But that's right. But they have this banquet room. The estimates of renting this room out were forecasting to generate them almost $200,000 a year.
Wow.
Just from one really lovely, decent-sized banquet room.
And for sure, I mean, those and banquet facilities cost a lot. They're constantly full.
They're constantly full.
You've got weddings that happen.
Somebody's getting married. Somebody's getting baptized. Somebody's getting graduating. Right.
I was the other day. I had a thought. I was talking with somebody about this. That they should have divorce parties. Wouldn't that be the same kind of?
You know what? If they had divorce parties, maybe the person getting divorced would feel that much better.
That's what I was thinking.
Right?
Yeah, and it's like a big celebration. It could just be like a wedding celebration.
We should
I think
talk
we need.
Offline.
Yes, there you go.
I've got some event planners I can get involved.
Let's do some divorce parties. We're going to launch a new trend.
That's right. The place these guys went wrong in this episode, what they were highlighting was the fact that the one mistake Marcus felt they made was that they
general store.
included a store, a retail element.
Well, he liked the general store. They knew they were doing that, but it was what was in the general store.
And they went way off course with respect to the inventory and the product offered.
Right. So they ended up going into clothing. Now, here's what I found interesting, because they were so proud of everything they were doing, and rightfully so. Right. I mean, I was amazed as I looked at it, and I looked at the build out that they were doing, and it was like, this place is beautiful, and it grew from just this little barbecue place into this
huge
mecca
destination point.
So as I was watching that, I thought it was fantastic, but then they start taking them through the store and they say, hey, look at these shirts. They showed an American flag shirt.
Marcus's point was the fact that they moved away from the branding of Schuler's barbecue. At least his point was, get something that was emblemed, what's deckled? What's
deckled?
the word?
Deckled is not a word.
Didn't you used to
we
deckle
should just
your
keep
jeans?
the global part and drop the gab.
This is why I'm not in fashion, folks. No, I used to deckle my jeans. Bedazzle, yes.
Bedazzled,
Thank you. Why do you know this?
Well, it must be because you come from Canada or something.
But no, they moved away from branding and offering branded products.
Yes.
And Marcus had no problem saying, hey, here's a flag with Schuler's on it. Here's a T-shirt with Schuler's on it. But don't give away a pink flamingo.
Yeah, because they had somebody bought a pink tie and a pink flamingo, and there
was no brand consistency with that.
Right, and then he got upset, and this is the part that I found interesting. He got upset because Marcus got upset because they weren't including him on the decision making in terms of where they were going to source the things for the store. They were working on their own.
Did you think he was justified in being upset?
See, that's where I took a little bit of a difference in opinion because I've seen, I love Marcus. I'm a big fan of Marcus. He does things that have blown me away consistently. The depth of his knowledge around the business has blown me away consistently. Here's what I've noticed on a couple of occasions is where he would take people to task, come down on them hard for things which, well, if there was a little bit more due diligence over here, then that wouldn't have ever been an issue. If there was a conversation about, and I'm not, I mean, anybody can backseat drive, so that's not what.
Right. Okay.
In fact, I'm starting my own talk show called Backseat Driving with Chris.
I'm a good backseat driver, by the way. I like control, so don't ever put me in the passenger seat.
Okay, good to know. But anybody can backseat drive. But as you look at it, it's like, all right, shouldn't there have been a conversation? And maybe the responsibility has to go from both sides.
Okay.
What do you want to be involved with specifically in terms of decision making? What level of decision should come to you? What should we put by you? If there's a certain dollar amount that's expended, what do you want to know about?
Well, the dollar amount expended in this case was $1.9 million in inventory.
It was an inventory?
In inventory only.
I took that to be the entire,
the whole thing.
the entire investment.
You're probably right. That's too high for inventory. But $1.9 million is not insignificant. Even if $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 of that was inventory.
Right. Yeah, perhaps. Whatever it was. Oh, no, it's not an insignificant number. He put in a significant amount, but once again, a conversation could avoid problems getting to that point rather than.
What did you think of their point, of the family's point in saying that we didn't want to bother you with this? We know you're busy and we didn't want to bother you.
See, I just think the whole argument could have been avoided.
Okay.
It could have been avoided by a proper conversation. No, well, I mean, obviously he wanted them to bother him. He wanted to be a part of that decision making, and he was letting them know that. And there's no problem with that.
Sure.
And I think this is why he needs a partner. Because
had the partner been a little more involved,
attached, and said, "Hey, these are the types of laid out the ground rules. These are, if you have these types of decisions, again, that should come by a little bit more structure. Not to, like I said, anybody can backseat drive. It's not that I know more than Marcus knows. It's just that had that been there, I don't think that would have ever come up as an issue.
But I found that Marcus had a point in saying, "Hey, you didn't even consult me," and the reason I feel he had a point is he is a business savvy,
absolutely,
100% proven businessman, and so to not even ask his advice when you have him there as a resource, to me is incredible. Incredible. If I had a direct line into Marcus, oh my goodness.
Okay.
I'd be asking him every day.
I think you're making a pitch here again.
Hello, Marcus.
Listen to her, man. She slides it in.
You know, Marcus,
she's so innocuous.
Here's a little tip for you that you may not know behind the scenes. Marcus was adopted by a Greek family. Yeah, I'm bringing it back. I have to.
Bring it back
I have to
home.
bring it back to home.
Well, that's the legend.
So Lemonis is actually a Greek. It's actually a Greek last name.
Is it really?
And he was adopted by a
No,
Greek
but hold on
family
a
when he was
second.
a little guy.
Now to keep things real.
Yes.
That's what my show. Keeping it real with Chris. Right?
Okay.
To keep things real, he's where's he from? He's from Lebanon. Yeah.
He was born in Lebanon.
Yeah.
He was born in Lebanon.
Yeah. So he has
but
nothing to do with Greek.
Yeah.
You're probably going to tell us next that he learned to speak Canadian, French Canadian when he was tied. Everything goes back to you. Anyway.
Always.
Always. All roads lead back. So let's.
I think to close this one off,
Yeah,
I think
let's close
Schuler's is in a good spot. They're in a good position. He
Beautiful
helped them
position.
to reorganize the store.
Yes, he did.
And bring some of the branded products forward.
What'd you think about that? Because I thought that was so cool. Like
It was-
all he had to do was move things out, and they had all these little pigs.
That had Schuler's written on them.
Yeah, it's almost you had to think a little bit of cannibalism or something. I mean, it's
Well,
almost
you know what? You're eating pig ribs.
you're eating pig ribs. Yeah, but he had all
They're
these
fine
cute
little
little pigs. But moving them out throughout the store was, I have to say, when I worked at Club Med, because I did that for 6 years, that was the type of thing that I had to do. I'd go into the various sports activities and I'd look, do they have their signage appropriate? Do they have, there's staple things that that the customer is going to be served well if X, Y, and Z is done.
Right, okay.
The sailboats, are the sails unfurled so they look inviting to people?
Correct.
Or are they all tied up, right? And so putting the brand consistency throughout the store, somebody with that eye, which he had, he was able to put that in, and he changed the experience because they were doing a soft opening, and with a soft opening or like a pre-launch of the general store, it changed the entire experience just with those little shifts that he made. I loved it. It was brilliant. So beautiful on that part. Let's see. Oh, they went from 3 million to 4 million.
Yes, which is respectable.
That comes up right
Absolutely.
there. Absolutely. And they're going to continue to grow. They're just neat people.
I would love to go eat there. Had I known they were this close to me, I would have ventured down. I would have taken a road
You would have
trip.
ventured all the way to South Carolina from North Carolina?
Yes, not too far.
All right. I think you're making up some stories.
I got a new phone recently, and I added Pandora, the application Pandora, which is the music app.
Okay.
So now I don't have to worry about bad radio. I can just click on my Pandora.
Right.
So I could have taken a road trip for 4, 5, 7 hours. I'm not sure how far away Schuler's actually is from where I was, which was in Asheville. But if I get the chance to go again, I'll try to look for them.
There you go, Pandora.
Yes.
And rock and roll. I wonder if they have Waze out there. Waze is great.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Waze. Okay, so we're gonna. Speaking of Waze, we're gonna go the way of moving to the next episode, which was Grafton Furniture.
Okay, now just to keep consistent, I'm gonna bring it back to me again.
You gotta be kidding me.
Grafton Furniture is based in Miami, in the Design District. I am 99.9% certain I have been there. Yes.
99.9% that you've been to Miami.
No, that I used to live in Miami.
I've been to Miami. I just don't brag about it. No, tell us about it.
I live in Miami. That is actually where my home base is.
Wait, now, see,
I told you, keep up.
I am absolutely certain you are making up stories now because you live here. I know that. I see you like 3 times a week.
All right. Recap. Born and raised in Canada. The family is Greek, lived in Greece, moved to Miami, most recently was in Miami, own a condo in Miami, and yes, I'm 99.9% certain that I have been to Grafton's Furniture.
I believe you.
Okay.
All right. So Grafton Furniture, this is the 3rd generation, once again, if you don't remember the episode, 3rd generation, family business, and we also remember that 60% of 2nd generation wealth is lost in business, and 90% of 3rd generation wealth is lost in a business. So there was, they were on shaky ground just to begin with from a statistics standpoint. And now, as Marcus went to go back to check on the business, you had the death of Esteban,
the death of Esteban, who was the founder, the father, the grandfather, the face of Grafton Furniture.
This did not happen on the episode; it was pre-episode. So he came back, and Esteban had passed away, and he wanted to talk to them about the effect of that and stuff. What's your take on this one?
I think you always gain the energy of the original founder. There's an energy there. There's a reason people flock to, whether it's a restaurant or a furniture store or whatever the product is, when you have a character at the helm.
Yeah.
But his son Steve, who took over,
yes,
actually managed to do a very good job. Sales were up 32%, which again is very respectable.
Yeah, that is respectable.
Yes.
It's respectable growth. It's and they've been in business for a long time. Yeah, so
And the furniture really was beautiful. Those showrooms were stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I guess my point that I was getting to was what was stunning was the fact that they could do 30% growth that deep into the business, because typically, you know, it's not uncommon to double the revenues on an annual basis in the early stages of the business, but after you've been out there for a while, it typically starts to
So that
30% growth increases. Yeah, pretty darn good. Marcus's original investment in this company had been what, 1.5 million for 45% of the business. What I liked that he pointed out in this episode was that he did that 1.5 for 45% was so that it could remain a family business.
And again, this is why we love Marcus, because he is a businessman first and foremost.
Yeah.
But he is a genuinely good person.
Yeah, you do the right thing. You're not going in to
He's not in there to
screw somebody over, or and quite frankly, there are a lot of sharks out there in the world that wouldn't deal with it in the same way. And
Correct.
that's to your point, that's why we like Marcus.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So shortly after the episode, Esteban passed away, we said. So we've got left remaining is Steve and his son Stevie.
Yes.
Is that what they call him? Stevie. I think I'd go with Steven, wouldn't you?
Stevie, not my favorite.
The name or the person?
The name.
Okay. So yeah, Stevie's. But
Reminds me of Stevie Nicks.
yeah, that's true.
That's true. Back to Pandora.
Yeah, back to I don't even get the Pandora thing. That's all right. I'm still working on
I'll get
Snapchat.
it on your phone. There you go.
Okay. So they had built a design room that was beautiful. Wasn't the design?
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had all the what do you call those, swatches? Are they swatches of material, fabric that people could come and choose from in terms of the furniture, where they would have a higher margin if they were actually doing the sale of the fabric as well as
the piece,
the furniture that they were creating. They had bought a machine for $100,000. That machine it cut the labor costs in half, which made a huge impact. Because I guess what they were looking to do was create a higher margin on the furniture that was created.
Okay.
On the furniture that they built, they wanted a higher margin. If they were able to cut the labor costs in half, that would increase that margin, but there had to be a capital expenditure up front.
Right.
Hence the need for some of the revenue that went into the business. Yeah.
Which is why Marcus invested.
Right. And one of the reasons why we look for investors in businesses is to take advantage of opportunities like that, which we wouldn't be able to do just on regular cash flow coming in.
Correct.
Right? Yes.
And it served them well. It worked.
Yeah.
It's a working formula.
Absolutely. They were at $2 million a year prior to his investment, now up to $2.8 million after the investment.
And after the death of Esteban.
And after the death, that sounds like a book or a movie or something. The Death of Esteban.
Write that down.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that. Will. In any case, our heart goes out to the family. We love you. You guys are good people.
Yes.
Good people in that. We're going to move to the last and final business that we looked at. And what's interesting here, I don't know if you recognize this, but we're coming full circle, because the very first episode of the season, season 3, episode 1, was SJC Drums. And now we're closing with SJC Drums.
What did you think of where they've gotten to?
Oh, before I reveal that very pertinent and important piece of information, why don't you share with everybody how they can download us on iTunes?
Yes. So you can download us on iTunes by going to AFTERBUZZ.
At iTunes.
And of course, you can catch us on YouTube at AFTERBUZZ TV.
AFTERBUZZ TV.
And you can catch us on AFTERBUZZTV.com.
And you go to The Profit each time you look for The Profit, and you can intravenously get us drip fed to you on iTunes the entire season 3.
Yes.
And as we move into the next season as well, watch out for us on the.
And I have to say that you did really such a fabulous job at carrying a good half of this season all on your own.
Well, when you say a good half, is that, I'll give you the other half?
No, well, Naina and I.
Naina,
you maybe, if you're watching, you may be noticing that Naina is not with us tonight.
We had to put her to pasture. No, there's a reason why. Do you know why?
Naina got a really great opportunity.
She got a gig.
And it conflicted with the time here, but it was a great step for her. So we're excited.
She got hired away from us.
Yes.
Which, people do. They see the talent that's right in front of them on camera right now, and they say, I want that person. No, I'm joking. No, but they see, so Naina got a great job. They see she was here, and she got hired, and
we wish her well.
Yes,
so good luck, Naina.
Thank you for your compliment, by the way.
No, you did. You really did. You carried the show for a good half of the season, and I'm so thankful to have been able to join your panel.
Yeah, I had to, I had to champion this because they didn't have anybody doing the profit, and I was the only person that wanted to do it, so I had to champion to
No, I'm glad you did, because I've enjoyed it, and I think we'll have a great time on the partner.
On the partner. Yes, we will. Now, so back to SJC Custom Drums. We come
and
full
the Family
circle.
Feud.
Yeah, talk.
Okay, so this is a family that was building drum sets, custom drum sets, high quality.
Yep,
they were brothers. And they ended up locking heads. Marcus came in.
Yeah. So one of the brothers actually, now
business.
Scott.
Yes.
Scott. So there was Mike and Scott, and Chris. There was Mike. Chris wasn't related. Mike and Scott were brothers.
Yeah.
Scott had already left the company when Marcus first came in the very first episode, if you remember. And then Marcus got him to come back, but it didn't seem to last.
Right. But Scott was a wealth of knowledge.
Scott was the guy. He's the guy that knew everything about the drums
and sound and yes.
The whole bit, and it didn't really. He didn't last inside the business in terms of being a permanent, employee or a partner in the business. But he left, and at this point in the game, he's creating product for them, and Mike is now a customer of Scott's. Yeah.
And the thing is that when we cut to this, this company is being hit by high debt. Few orders. The pricing was way overpriced.
This is an episode one, back to episode one. Yeah,
$6,000 for a drum set.
Right, and they were selling them primarily to high-end users because if you remember, Imagine Dragons, Green Day. Lady Gaga
big bands,
swore by these drums and said this is what to get,
which is great unless you're a small company starting up, in which case you need the volume,
or you're just a young person getting your first drum set, or you're and
typical price point for those out there is around $1,000. So this was significantly more expensive.
Absolutely, and so Marcus in episode 1 had introduced his good, better, best model.
Right.
Which is let's have some lower price points so that there's a low barrier to entry for the beginning consumer who can then grow into new drum sets.
Right.
Yep. So when he comes back, we've got Mike that's on the road. He went on a tour.
He went on a tour with a what do you call them? A big van full of product. With the intent to try and sell $100,000 worth of inventory on this road trip.
Yeah. So the road trip, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I heard
he was at concerts.
He was traveling. He was going on tour, following
bands and festivals.
Yeah, he was doing. That's pretty cool. That's a good gig.
It's a great gig.
Yeah. So following the bands and making sales, and I believe he took off with $25,000 in inventory.
$25,000 in inventory. Sold it all, and came away with 80 leads. 50% of which he felt would buy.
Right. They were calculating about. He said we should do $100,000 in sales from those leads.
Right.
Marcus then went a little bit lower, and he said if we sold a third of those leads, it would wind up in $75,000 in profit.
Which is still great.
So he was happy about the $25K in sales, but he was, because the trip, I think, didn't they say it cost him $50,000?
Oh, did I missed that?
I believe that the tour cost him $50,000 to do the whole tour.
So net would be about 25.
Well, no, you probably, what is it?
If he
75,
did 75
right?
in sales.
But so it's 100 total with the 25 he already did.
100, right? Okay, so 50.
Yeah. So, but if you're getting it out there and you're moving it,
oh
it's
sure,
like,
$50,000 for a couple of weeks on the road is nice cash.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Sure,
that's not bad, especially if they're looking at. I think what was their goal that they were going to be moving to profit-wise. I believe that they were looking at $2 million expected for the year.
Okay.
So sure, if you can do 2 weeks traveling and do $50,000 in that amount of time. Then that can add up. So you start to build
annually.
Yeah, because I mean, a 2-week tour you go, okay, if it's a one-off, big deal.
Right.
But if it's a strategy,
if it's consistent,
if it's a
yes.
business model that you can begin to put into place, then you go, okay, maybe that's something that could.
And Marcus owns 33% of this business, so he was happy to hear that.
Very happy to hear that. And let's see, they also bought a machine that was $115K to buy to improve the process, which is something that we look. And I loved it when Marcus said, tell me what this does so I know that this wasn't just a bad idea.
Well, it was a very expensive machine, and you know what they did was they took the labor time down from approximately an hour and a half to build this particular piece of drum down to 9 minutes. So an 80% efficiency savings cost in labor because of the purchase of this machine,
which is ridiculous. I mean, that's
a smart buy. That's a smart buy.
What's fascinating, I think, what I've learned most over this whole season 3, watching these episodes, is just that the incremental differences from the small changes that can be made that wind up in huge results in terms of the bottom line.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, well, it's called The Profit, isn't it?
The wind up leading you to a profit.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, but seriously, it's like just the little teeny things that you can shave off of, you know, in terms of when you would negotiate the prices with the vendors, or you look at.
I mean, I always marvel at the food costs.
Right.
When he takes it down, Marcus takes it down to the cost of a slice of tomato.
Right.
I mean, he analyzes down to 4 cents.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why he has $40 million to share.
Yeah. Well, they say that the magicians of the material world are the people that can weave the abstract vision, but then get down to the specifics so that you can also know what's the cost savings if you cut the price in half on that price of that tomato by negotiating with the vendors. And each one, you're going to get a percentage point,
and that adds up after a while.
Absolutely. And it's you know, all in all, when we look at this, it's like. You know, the overall assessment of the show is, you know, they're doing a good job on
What's your takeaway from the whole season?
I think that's it. It's just that you know, more than anything, because there's a lot of big gross concepts that I've gotten or I've already known in terms of you love to see it played out anyway, even though you already know it, you learn it again and again and again. You know, the branding, the brand consistency, the knowing who your consumer is,
people management,
having low barrier to entry tastes that move up to a larger purchase and for the lifetime value of that client. All of those things I think have been really big, but for me, the importance of the numbers and the importance of those, you know, shaving off a little there, and all of a sudden you got this margin that just didn't exist before.
Well, and that's what strategy is all about: is making tactical, intelligent changes that, when put together, are going to result in, you know, beneficial progress.
Right. That's what they do in Greece, right?
Absolutely.
Actually, not so well right now.
I was going to say, somebody's got to give them that memo.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get back to your people is what you got to do.
That's right.
So for you, what's been your overall takeaway from the season?
You know, I for me, it was a mix. It was I loved this show because it's such a nice balance of American capitalism together with helping, sharing, and helping the American dream and keeping the American dream alive. Yeah. So it was a really nice complement of, I would say, sort of opulence and elemental, if you will.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, but you got to have that heart in business, and that's the thing that, you know, a lot of businesses, when you go into them, if it's so cut and dry, and if it's all about the money, and if it's you know, then it's like that heart space isn't there. People don't want to stick around with that.
And
people
I think
there's
really something to be said for competition versus creativity.
Competition versus
You can get ahead by being creative. You don't necessarily have to be competitive. And I think if we taught that to our kids,
you mean you don't have to stomp on the other guy's head?
You know, you don't have to talk about yourself the whole episode.
There you go. There you go. No, it's an interesting thought. But I guess I'll wrap with this concept. You say, what's the big takeaway? And when you say that capitalism with heart is how I took it. You know,
Sure.
by, the profit. We could define the profit as being the what's left at the end of the day. But what's profit could also be looked at in terms of how do people profit from their experience of the business? How do you profit your employees by being there? And they say the best definition of leadership that I've ever heard was that the true mark of an inspired leader is the ability to bring out the best in people and to help them to self-actualize through the accomplishment of a noble vision or a noble intention. And that's real leadership. And I see that in Marcus, where he helps people to self-actualize by whether it be giving a percentage of the the ownership in something that they're building to the employees, or really giving people that second chance and really helping them to do that. And those profits are tremendous. We got to wrap now. And with that said, Katerina, why don't you gab a bit about where they can get a hold of you?
Okay, so if anyone would like to gab with me post the profit, please do. I'm available to chat with you via my website, globalgab.com. That's global-gab.com. Also at Katerina Cozias on Instagram and Twitter. Please do gab with me. Hit me up.
Gab with her, gab with me. You can reach me at Chris Howard Live on both Twitter and Instagram. Also, subscribe to LegendaryLivingDaily.com. You can hear from me daily. It's awesome. And LegendaryLivingTV.com for my YouTube channel. Otherwise, it's been fantastic and fun hanging out with you for the season.
Thank you for being with us.
Awesome. Thank you to
Stay
AfterBuzz
tuned for
TV.
more of us.
By all means. And we'll be back with a partner. Hang tight. It's coming.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.